My name is Rafael, you're watching Rock and Roll Garage, and today we're going to talk about musicians who are inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame more than once. But first, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave your comment. Well, let's start we can call him the king of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because he was the only one who was inducted 3 times. That's right. Eric Clapton. He was inducted in 1992 as a member of the Yardbirds. Then in 1993, he was inducted as a member of Cream. And finally, in 2000, he was inducted as a solo act. So he's the only one until 2024 was inducted 3 times into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So, well, we can call him the king. And now we go to the list. It's a long list of musicians who were inducted twice. And let's start with Ozzy Osbourne. He was inducted first in 2006 as a member of Black Sabbath. And let's say it took a long time for Black Sabbath to be inducted, right? I mean, 2006, they should have been inducted in the 90s or late 80s. And finally, in 2024, recently, he was finally inducted as a solo act. He should have been inducted a long time ago as a solo act for sure. And let's move to Jimmy Page. And Jimmy Page was first inducted in 1992 alongside Eric Clapton as a member of the Yardbirds. And it took 3 years for him to be inducted finally as a member of Led Zeppelin in 1995. Another musician who was inducted twice is the legendary Stevie Nicks. She was first inducted as a member of Fleetwood Mac in 1998, and then in 2019 she was finally inducted as a solo act. Now we reach someone you probably expected to be a list of musicians who you probably expected to be inducted twice, and it is the Beatles. So the first Beatle to be inducted, the Beatles were inducted in 1988. They were one of the first bands from those first years of the Rock Hall of Fame to be inducted, and they were inducted in 1988. And the first Beatle to be inducted as a solo act was John Lennon. He was inducted in 1994 as a solo act. Then in 1999, Paul McCartney was inducted as a solo act. George Harrison was inducted in 2004, which, I mean, if you haven't seen George Harrison's induction, take a look at the incredible performance of a band that was formed with Jeff Lynne, Danny Harrison, who is George's son, Tom Petty, and Prince playing While My Guitar Gently Weeps. I mean, Prince's solo guitar solo, dude, is just incredible. You gotta check it out if you haven't seen that yet. And, it took a long time, but he was finally inducted in 2015, Mr. Ringo Starr. He was inducted, 9 years ago. So all the Beatles members were inducted twice. Another 2 artists who were inducted twice were Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood, because Rod Stewart was first inducted in 1994 as a solo act, and in 2012 he was inducted as a member of the Faces. Now Ronnie Wood was first inducted with the Rolling Stones in 1989, and then in 2012 as a member of the Faces. Now we go to the members of Crosby, Stills and Nash. And now it's an interesting thing because Neil Young was not inducted with them. Because if Neil Young had been inducted with them, he would be just like Eric Clapton, who would have been inducted 3 times. But when Crosby, Stills and Nash were inducted, only Crosby, Stills and Nash were inducted. And this happened in 1997. But it wasn't the first time they were inducted, the members of Crosby, Stills and Nash. David Crosby was first inducted in 1991 as a member of the Byrds, the band he was part previously. And then he was inducted for the second time in 1997 as a member of Crosby, Stills and Nash. Now, Graham Nash was first inducted in 1997 as a member of CSN, and then in 2010 he was inducted as a member of the Hollies, which was his previous band, the great British group, the Hollies. And Stephen Stills was inducted, he's the only artist who was inducted twice in the same year. He was inducted in 1997 as a member of Crosby, Stills and Nash, and also as a member of Buffalo Springfield, the band he was part before with Neil Young. And we're going to talk now about Neil Young. He was first inducted in 1995 as a solo act, and then 2 years later as a member of Buffalo Springfield. So he was inducted twice. And now let's talk about Jeff Beck, the legendary guitarist, the late legendary guitarist who sadly passed away back in 2023. He was first inducted alongside Jimmy Page and Eric Clapton in 1992 as a member of the Yardbirds. He even said a few funny things in his speech because he said the band kicked him out and etc. But he was first inducted in 1992, and then in 2009 he was inducted as a solo act, and he was inducted by Jimmy Page. It's quite a nice performance if you look at it. They played, if I'm not mistaken, Bax Bolero and a few other songs, which was, an incredible performance. They even played with Metallica that year because Metallica was also inducted that year. And now let's talk about Tina Turner. Tina was first inducted in 1991 as a member of the duo Ike and Tina Turner, which she was originally part of with her ex-husband Ike. And then in 2021, she was finally inducted as a solo act. Let's talk about now Peter Gabriel. Now, Peter was inducted for the first time in 2010 as a member of Genesis, and he was inducted for the second time as a solo act in 2014. And the interesting thing is that Peter Gabriel was inducted twice, but Phil Collins, who was, he was much more commercially successful than Peter Gabriel with Genesis and as a solo act, he was not inducted yet as a solo act. And we already recorded a video talking about bands who were not inducted yet. You can watch it below the video. And we talked about Phil Collins. I mean, there must be something really wrong that we're in 2024 and Phil Collins was not inducted yet. I mean, I don't know what's happening. And let's talk now about a guy named Clyde McPhatter. He was first inducted as a solo artist, which is quite interesting. Being inducted first as a solo act, that's more unusual. He was first inducted as a solo act in 1987, and then finally in 1988, 1 year later, he was inducted as a member of the Drifters, incredible band. And now let's talk about Carole King. She was first inducted as a songwriter with Gary Goffin in 1990, and then she was finally inducted 31 years later in 2021 as a solo act. Let's continue. Let's talk now about Mr. Dave Grohl, who was first inducted as a member of Nirvana in 2014, and then in 2021 he was inducted as a member of Foo Fighters. Another musician who was inducted twice was Johnny Carter, a member of the Flamingos. He was first inducted as a member of the Flamingos in 2001, and then in 2004 he was inducted as a member of the Dells. Another musician who was part of these, two-time inductees was Curtis Mayfield. He was inducted first in 1991 as a member of the Impressions, and then in 1999, 8 years later, as a solo act. Another really, I really think he's quite underrated, the keyboardist Greg Rowley, who was part of Santana and then Journey. And you know, you might consider Journey a spin-off band of Santana because of Neil Scott and Greg Rowley and a few other guys who played with Santana and then were part of Journey. Greg Rowley was first inducted as a member of Santana in 1998, and then in 2017 as a member of Journey. Another artist who was inducted twice was Paul Simon. He was first inducted as part of the duo Simon and Garfunkel in 1990, and then finally 11 years later in 2001 he was inducted as a solo act. Another legendary musician who was inducted twice, Mr. Lou Reed. He was first inducted in 1996 as a member of Velvet Underground, probably one of the most influential bands which was not really successful commercially. And he was finally inducted as a solo act in 2015. It took quite a while, I mean, almost 20 years. And another legendary musician who was inducted twice was Mr. Michael Jackson. He was first inducted in 1997 with the Jackson 5, the band he was part since he was a kid with his brothers. And then finally in 2001 he was inducted as a solo act. And you might say, oh, why Michael Jackson is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Well, I think a lot of artists who first started as Motown artists, for example, there are quite a lot here that we talked about, and that mixed rock and roll with pop, with soul, with funk. You know, I think there's a mixture, and there's a little bit of rock and roll in it, and you gotta put them there. You know, you're not gonna put rappers like you're doing because they never did anything related to rock and roll that was significantly. I mean, they should be at the Hip Hop Hall of Fame or the Rap Hall of Fame, but not at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And let's talk about the final one that I'm going to bring to you, which is Sammy Strain. He was inducted in 2005 as the member of the OJs, and then in 2009 as a member of Little Anthony and the Imperials. So these are 27 musicians and artists who were inducted more than once into the Rock and Roll of Fame until 2024. And let's hope that at least, for example, Phil Collins can be inducted finally as a solo act in the following years. Well, that's it. I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe, to like the video, leave your comment, and of course, watch below the video or clicking here or in the final screen of this video, the video we made about more than 60 artists and bands who were not inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet. And let's talk about it. Okay, thank you for watching. Don't forget to visit rockandrollgarage.com, and I see you later.